What's up, guys and gals, and welcome back to another Division 2 build video. If you happen to be new to the channel, ground and pound that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on post notifications so that way you know each and every time a new video is uploaded. But today I bring you something that I haven't actually seen put out there, and basically I spent a lot of time and effort trying to get these particular talents and skills unlock and utilize in this build and become an absolute tank. And not just a tank, I can absorb tons and tons of damage, but also I can inflict a heck of a lot more damage than what I can take. So let's hop right into the actual build. As you can see, 201,426 in armor, 27,055 health, and 3,076 skill power. Now this build is basically multiple layers. It's like an onion, so we'll try to peel back each individual layer as we go along. We'll start with the brand sets themselves, and then go on from the talents and how it's all incorporated, and then we'll move on to the weaponry and of course the skills, and then finally the character sheet. So let's start out with the mask first. It's Wyvernware. The one piece of it gives you 7% crit damage, two pieces give you drone skill power, and then 3% give three of them give you 10% critical hit chance. And I'm utilizing all three. And then the attributes on this particular mask are cooldown reduction and 28% hazard protection, and of course hard hitting for 15% damage to elites. Now I'm probably going to eventually roll or recalibrate, I should say, and get a much larger cooldown reduction other than 5%. So there are aspects that still can be improved upon, but they are very minor to a certain extent. But anyways, moving on to the holster, we have on its attributes 1,273 skill power and the talent Devastating plus 5% weapon damage. Going on to the knee pads, its attributes are 614 skill power, and then the talents are when your armor is depleted, nearby enemy skills are disrupted for 10 seconds, can occur once every 30 seconds. And this is really helpful in the dark zones because I've noticed there's a lot of assault drones that people like to send out and try to pretty much blast you away. So once your armor is depleted, it'll disrupt that drone, for instance, and then allow you to repair your armor and then completely destroy that drone, and then you can proceed to advance on those agents that are roguing you or griefing you, or whatever the case may be, or you might be griefing them and they send the drone after you. But anyways, once your armor's gone, they're disrupted for 10 seconds, and a lot can be done in those 10 seconds. Your armor can be repaired if you need to pop an armor kit, or your armor can be, also repaired by your own skill, such as, a hive, the chem launcher, whichever is best suits the situation and the best one that you actually have equipped at the time. But then moving on to the other three components, since we are utilizing an AR and an LMG, on the chest piece we have a ferrous group A and B, and just one piece of that allows you to have 10% assault rifle damage, and its attributes are 4,404 bonus armor, 696 skill power, and 7.5% weapon damage. And its talents are hard hitting, plus 15% damage to elites, and of course hardened, plus 10% armor. Now moving on to the gloves themselves, it's another just random piece, but even though it's just maybe one particular piece, that talent that you get just from having one piece can be very beneficial, and plus the talents that are actually on the gear piece itself can be very beneficial. And the reason why I have this on is not just for the 10% cooldown reduction, but the attribute of it as 11% assault rifle damage. Now if I had one less, then also the kneecap talent would be unlocked, which is shooting an enemy in the legs to have a 10% chance to apply bleed. And as later on, when I find better gear and the pieces that I absolutely want with the talents, then that can be worked on as previous builds that I have posted. I was able to actually have this unlocked, but it is quite difficult, especially if you want adequate and sufficient enough skill power or cooldown reduction. So it is kind of hard to meet a lot of things, but if you grind and try to find the right pieces, eventually they will come. Now moving on to the backpack. It is a Providence Defense backpack, and for one piece you get 10% skill power, and the attributes on this is 8,061 bonus armor, 4.5% crit chance, and 3.5% weapon damage. Now I'd like to have the weapon damage and the crit chance a little bit higher, but as of right now this is the best case scenario for this particular build, just because it does have a high bonus armor roll on it. And of course the safeguard talent, killing a target grants 150% bonus to repairing and healing effects for 20 seconds. And I meet that requirement, and of course it has hardened an additional plus 10% armor. So just a recap and what my mindset is as far as just based on these gear. We have stacked damage to elites and harden on every particular piece. We have damage to elites on our mask, our chest piece. That gives us a total of 30. And then of course we have the 10% by way of armor with the talent hardened. So we have 20% bonus armor, and then we have 30% damage to elites just from those two pieces. Now with those this particular talent here, with having that amount of armor, 201,000, and then such as if you're using a hive like I do, or if you want to double up and actually use a chem launcher and drop those at your feet, and there's a plethora of NPCs either roaming in the dark zone or while you're doing missions, the invaded missions, or just helping power level other members that are lower level than you. And since you know your gear, their gear actually, and their weapons scale up to you, even though they can dish out enough damage, usually they tend to get two-tapped, especially if they are, you know, around level 25 or below. And as you can see, I'm at a 453 gear score, so it can be quite challenging for them, but it can be done, and this will actually help you out and help them out at the same time. You kill an NPC, and with my skill power accompanied with the safeguard talent, then it repairs their armor, their health super fast, and basically you can stand there and take quite considerably a larger amount of damage than just based on what my armor alone can heal or can take. But the safeguard will actually rapidly repair that armor. So basically, if I have no cover and there's like one of those big sledgehammer guys, or you know, just one of those big heavies coming at you, and there is really no cover, except for maybe the ones that your teammates are hiding behind, and knowing if you try to go post up on them, it's going to pop them up out of cover, and they're going to get two-tapped. So basically, it kind of defeats the whole purpose. So if you drop this or use a chem launcher, you can basically stand in your health and face tank as much as possible and dispatch pretty much anything that stands in your path. But I forgot to mention, but also this is the only mod that I actually have on any piece, and that is for the 4% assault rifle damage, and then just the measly 1% all of weapon damage. But I couldn't stack any more of either crit chance, crit damage, or weapon damage due to having to meet the requirements for safeguard. So it was more or less a give and take relationship, and as you'll see the damage that I output on my weapons in my character sheet, it was a good sacrifice in order to have safeguard, because in turn, along with my armor, I can be a lot more tanky and absorb and pretty much be just a bullet sponge or grenade sponge for all types of damage. But let's move on to the weapons. The first one we have is a military M60E4. Its base damage is 19.8k, RPM 550, and it has the talents Ignited, deal 20% weapon damage to burning enemies. And of course, I found it a lot easier doing invaded missions or helping out with just utilizing a flame turret, or somebody in your group actually using a flame turret, because it's a good deterrent for crowd control. When NPCs pretty much try to swarm you, they all catch on fire. And this will further help you dispatch them, because you'll have the plus 20% weapon damage to burning enemies. So you stack that on top of the 19.8k, and basically you're going to obliterate all the NPCs that stand in your path. The mods that are on it, of course, is the T2 micro red dot for the additional accuracy. We're not worried about crit chance because it's an LMG. We're going off raw base damage. And of course the ammunition belt, plus 10% rate of fire, lose 20% stability, but we gain 15 stability back for the long barrel, and we lose 8% accuracy. But since we have accurate on it, we actually still have in the plus category of 7% accuracy, so we didn't really lose anything there. And then we have the muzzle slot with the 7.62 with 20% stability, and then there goes that 7% accuracy that we did gain. So actually we are only in the whole 3% accuracy, so overall it's a good fair trade-off. But also, as you can see, I have other LMGs. If I don't want to use more or less a flame turret, or anybody in our group has a flame turret, then there's other options, such as this military M60. 10% critical hit damage is gained for every 5% of your armor that is depleted. So if I wanted to switch things up and utilize nothing but a lot of crit chance stacked and not have to suffer under the qualifications of meeting safeguard, then this would actually come in quite handy, because as I'm inflicting damage, I'm gaining even more crit hit damage for every piece of armor that is depleted. And then of course, recharge while equipped skills deployed at full armor have 25% duration, charges, and ammo. Now if I had recharged on the other one, it would actually be paired really nicely along with it, just before the simple fact of having safeguard on my backpack. So that would help further my duration of my heals, and also such as the chem launcher that actually give me more charges that I can dispense and put on the floor or heal teammates with. And of course the military MK46, I actually just had got this one, but I mean it's nothing really special. Holstered, while holstered, due to overlap, your equipment weapon gains a handling bonus, and that's not really too great in my book. Headshot kills increase skill repair and healing by 25%. This will work out really nice if I can also meet that requirement, and I'm just short of one. But another, I guess, not so much of a high-end base damage, but it does have the RPM and a little bit smaller magazine. It's basically the magazine of an AR, but we have the Infantry MG5. Reloading for empty grants 35% weapon damage and 35% rate of fire for 7 seconds. Requires 4 or less, and I absolutely have 3. And then I have ammo capacity on it, and of course in rhythm. While equipped, enemy kills have a 5% chance to refresh active skill cooldowns and can occur once every 60 seconds. So basically this would be my go-to if I or anyone in my group was not using more or less a fire turret or incendiary grenades from the specialist. Then definitely I would have this bad boy on, and since I have only 50 rounds, and all I have to do is optimize it with a lot of reload speed as far as in the attachments, so that way that I can blast NPCs or players away, then go to 0, and then as soon as I reload for that next 7 seconds, then I have 35% weapon damage along with 35% rate of fire. So it can really mow other agents or NPCs down. Now let's go on to the assault rifles. And as you can see, I have the CTAR, and it's has one of the best talents that I like when it comes to especially ARs, because you have sufficient and decent range. But the CTAR with the exceptional rate of fire, and it's doing 10.6k base damage, and the talent that is on it is Ranger, one of my favorites. Every 5 meters you are from the target grants 2% weapon damage. But unfortunately, as you can see, due to my skill power, I can't really meet that. But I most definitely will be trying to find the right pieces that I can insert into the current ones I have, so that way I can just be one less by either cooldown reduction or skill power, so that way I can unlock this talent, because it is actually really dope. And then of course I have extra 20% magazine capacity, and of course in rhythm. While equipped, enemy kills have a 5% chance to refresh active skill cooldowns, can occur once every 60 seconds. It's a small percentage, but you know, in the game of RNG, the sky's the limit. Just gotta hope and pray that you actually get those, and you never know, in the clutch situation it could actually pay off. But then of course I have as a backup the Police M4. It has close and personal on it, another of my favorites when it comes to damage talents, and that is close and personal. Killing a target within 7 meters grants 50% weapon damage for 5 seconds, and I absolutely meet the requirements for this one, 5 or more, and I actually right there on it. And of course it has Allegro, 10% rate of fire, so that's what makes it even more potent, because not only does it have a little bit higher base damage than the CTAR, but it is now finally above the actually RPM of it due to Allegro, and of course the rate of fire magazine if you want to put in it, and then everlasting. While holstered in cover, this weapon regenerates to ammo every 5 seconds. So you use it out first, and then you holster it, and then you say you have an LMG. As you're dispersing 100 to 120 rounds, then for every 5 seconds that you are taking pop shots to NPCs while you're taking cover, then you do get a little bit of ammo back. So if you run out of the LMG belt of 120 rounds, eventually, by that time you should at least have probably a half magazine back. But even if it's only 15 to 20 bullets, those 15 to 20 bullets can come in really clutch in a certain situation. Its mods are critical hit damage, accuracy, we lost a little bit of it, then 5.56 magazine slot, the light extended, plus 30 rounds, and we lose 10% rate of fire, but due to the Allegro, we didn't really lose anything. So we basically only gained 30 rounds. And then the underbarrel, we have 10% crit hit chance, and then we lost 20% critical range. That is one of the smaller laser pointers due for the demolition that I used. So it works out really nice because basically you're turning an AR into an SMG, but you can still use it at mid-range. You're only losing, I think, about 10 yards out of it, so it's not really that big of a difference. And then, of course, we have the 5.56 muzzle brake. We lose 15% stability, but then we gain for 10% damage to elites for all the PvE activities that we are on. Well, that sums it up a little bit, but let's go over the character sheet as a final overall. The gear talents we have are, we have stacked hardened for a total of 20% armor. We have hard hitting stacked twice for the 30% damage to elites. 40% damage to elites if we're using the AR. Then, of course, the safeguard. Then we have devastating, the plus 5% weapon damage. The cloaked, when your armor is depleted, nearby enemy skills are disrupted for 10 seconds. And the weapon talents are extra, ignited, in rhythm, accurate, double duty, soon to be ranger up there, close and personal, stable, and then greased while holstered weapons swaps speed up is increased by 10%. And then, of course, the M406 mortar rounds, which is really fun to use. But the CTAR, these are the main stats, 24.5% crit chance, 42% crit damage. But we're not really basing it totally on trying to get crits or crit damage. That is just not really sustained, damage. That's just, if you're able to crit. So I'm more in this for the sustained category. And as you can see, assault rifle damage bonus 25%, and then alongside that 17% all weapon damage bonus, for a grand total of 32% weapon damage bonus to the AR. Now, if I was using a different specialist, one that more or less centers around ARs, and get that additional 15% bonus by way of the specialist, by using an AR, then that would put me up to 47% weapon damage to assault rifles. That's just freaking insane. But as my secondary LMG, 15% LMG damage and 17% all weapons damage, and that brings your total up to 32% weapon damage bonuses to LMGs. Now, if I had a better backpack with the same talent from Safeguard and using a Petrov defense one piece will give me 10% LMG damage, so that would even further the LMG damage. And as I keep on grinding, and if I procure one that has the right talents, then definitely I would swap it out and utilize it, just because this is more or less an AR LMG build, and that would give even more damage to my LMGs. But if I wanted to use an SMG, I have 15% SMG damage bonus to it due to my specialist, the Demolitionist. So if I wanted to switch to an SMG, then I would still do a lot of damage with the SMG, because I had the 17% all weapon damage and then the 15% of that, so it kind of equals out. Then, as you can see, the 30% damage to elites helps out on all PvE activity. And we've already went over our max armor. Our health regen is 13,528, and we have the 28% hazard protection, so I can eat a lot more grenades or withstand a lot more Molotovs being thrown by NPCs. 15% cooldown reduction, and 3,077 total in skill power. But basically that sums it up. It's a lot of fun. Whether it be PvE or PvP, because as you'll notice in the live streams yesterday and the day before, that basically I got hit with 4 grenades simultaneously, and just sit there and pretty much took it and just pretty much laughed at them like, okay, you got any more to throw at me? And then I proceeded to whip out my mortar rounds, and they pretty much ran for cover. So they were trying to utilize a shield and, of course, the one-shot sniper, and that didn't really work out too far because all they did was eat mortars. But anyway, stay tuned for that gameplay in the future, coming soon. But thank you guys so much for all the 11 support. We are over 3K subs now. Thank you all to all the Gorilla fam and everyone that supports the channel. And if you happen to looking for other content creators to venture out and check out, then check out Bloodthirsty on YouTube. Also Slayer 310, and then of course Baruka Boy. You'll see all of them periodically in my PvE and PvP videos. So definitely go check them out and tell them Relentless sent you. But thank you guys so much. We'll see you later.